So we just posted a message about the movie Les Miserables titled The Letter and the Spirit of the Law. And upon further discussion, we wanted to expand a little bit on the principle of becoming what you're expected to become and the way that people will often stick with what society dictates for them to be. And in reference to the movie, we were thinking about obviously Jean Valjean, the main character played by Liam Neeson, who was transformed in the movie, started off as a criminal and became a dignified man who spent the rest of his life doing what is just and right, helping the poor, the needy, and donating himself to charity. But in the beginning of the film, he was a criminal, and he said once he was labeled a convict, well, the system said he was no good. He thought he was no good. So he figured, well, if you call me a criminal, I think I'm a criminal, I might as well become a criminal. Now, we're thinking of that, and I'm sure that all of you can come up with examples in your own lives. I know I have. I've been labeled the class clown, and I started acting like it, right? As a kid, you want to find your place in the room. You want to find where you belong, and when people treat you a certain way, you start acting that way. And there's another woman in that movie who had a daughter outside of marriage, and she was labeled a whore, a prostitute. And once that was found out, she lost her job and nobody would hire her because, well, in France in those days, if you're unmarried and have a child, well, you're a whore. Nobody's gonna hire you. So she said, well, if everybody call me a whore, I might as well become one. And then she herself tried to become a prostitute, went on the street, and got arrested. And it's so interesting how society has that power over you when you allow it. And of course, when the priest took Jean Valjean and told him that he's redeeming him from evil to give him back to God, and he gave him the extra silver chalices as a gift, he endowed a new identity, a new belief system into Jean Valjean to allow him to see himself in a different light. And lo and behold, Jean Valjean did see himself in this new light of being redeemed and spent the rest of his life in that image that was given to him. So it is a very interesting principle that is really played out in everyday life.
And he received it because sometimes, the funny thing you have to say about it in that scene, the priest could have had him arrested, but the priest chose to redeem him with a grace and a mercy he did not earn, nor did he deserve. He knew that, the thief, Jean Valjean, he knew that. And he said, I redeemed you. I bought your life. Now give it back to God. I bought your life. Now give it back to God. I redeemed you. That's what Yeshua did. I redeemed you. Now give it back to God. But here is the difference that you see in him that you don't see in most people. 45 years of ministry, I've led many to the Lord. I've led very few that come to the Lord like the man in that movie. That a man who has been sinning much, forgiven for much, should have an attitude of gratitude beyond measure. And there's so many, you know how wicked you were. You know all of the wicked things you've done. You come to the Lord. Grace is given to you. Some of you have been close to death. Some of you have had all kinds of things happen to you. And some of you had things that should have happened to you that didn't happen. Some of you should be in jail, but you never got caught, or you never got prosecuted, or it never got known that you slipped that drug in that girl's drink and you took advantage of her. Basically, you raped her. It's never been known that underage girl that you had sex with. No one knows it, but you do. And yet, when you give your life to the Lord, you come with an arrogance, an attitude, and you start forgetting where you come from. In the movie Les Miserables, he never did. He was joyfully, joyfully, joyfully giving his whole life. There's a woman named Catherine Austin Fitts. She talked about how the government came after her. They took everything that she owned. She had no money. Her family decided, when they looked at her, they said, we got to help her. Even if it's a risk to us, we have to help her. And she said, it took her a few years to get back on her feet. She said, even with their help. And then she did the calculation. When she got on her feet, she said, I noticed something. That when I had money, I had been generous with my money. I had given over and over beyond. She goes, and then when I had that problem with the government and the taxes, my family came to my aid. And it turns out, she said, when I look at what I had before I had the problem that I had been giving, that I've been helping people with, she's a financier, so she knows a financial advisor. She's a very smart woman. She kept accurate records. She said, when I looked at what I had given $250,000 out. She goes, I didn't look at it before, but now I'm looking at it in hindsight. I had given $250,000 out. And she said, do you know, that's exactly the amount that came back to me when I was in need? $250,000. She said, and then I won my case and got the money back. Now I've got $500,000. And my accountant was telling me how to invest in this now and do this. So you can do this with this money. She goes, oh, no. I'm done investing in Vegas and hedge funds and government bonds. And I'm done. She goes, I'm investing in people like I did, because it was my investment in people that got me out of my problem. Now I'm not putting money back into the system. And she took half of that money and she gave it out again to the very people that had helped her, who she had helped before. And she said, the real bank is people bank, investing in people. But my point is, she was grateful. She was thankful. They didn't ask for it back. But when you're grateful and thankful, you have an attitude of what God has got you out of, what God has got you through, especially if you remember how bad you were. God doesn't hold it over you, but you should remember. So you never become too high and mighty, so that you always remain humble. The difference. See, he was able to forgive himself because God forgave him. And he knew God had forgiven him because he had this opportunity of salvation when he should have been sent back to prison. And someone had so much mercy. Not only did the priest have mercy on him, from the stuff that he stole, the priest gave him more. He goes, oh, you took the silver spoons and everything else, but you forgot the silver candelabras. Gave him more. Not only gave him more of what he wanted, gave him what he never thought he wanted or needed. Mercy and grace and salvation. But he never forgot that. So he, for the rest of his life, had been giving that same mercy and grace, even to the inspector that was chasing him. He gave him mercy and grace over and over again. The inspector couldn't even forgive himself. But Jean-Paul said, I order you to forgive yourself. True repentant people don't have guilt. They have remorse, but not guilt. They accept the salvation. You have to accept the gift of God. You can't accept it with guilt. And you have to accept it with humility. And it's humility that keeps you remembering who saved you, who rescued you, Who helped you? Who was there when no one else was there? That's what Catherine Austin was saying. You were there when I was sick. You were there when I was in prison. You were there when I was in hospital. That's an investment worth paying. That's a person worth helping. Who was there for me? And isn't that what the Torah teaches? But you have to know the gratitude of being able to be forgiven and being grateful when you are.
And it's very interesting how, like Stephen said, it's really is a question of the character, because two people can go through the same exact situation. One will not be grateful and one will. And we noticed too, when we were considering the parable of the wicked servant who was forgiven for much and then turned on the lesser servant, it usually is the bigger person, the one on top that has more reason to not be so forgiving, that is. You see, truly wealthy people are much kinder and generous with their money and less flaunting than people who are halfway rich. They tend to be the stingiest and flaunt all of their money with all of their expensive cars, right? And I think it's the same way with salvation. People who are newly born, they always say those newborn Christians are the worst. Because you're like a baby thinking that you're all that when you're not. But as you humble yourself and grow to become, humble is really making yourself shorter, making yourself lower, being more connected to the ground, putting your feet on the ground. It's like when you shake a bottle of soda or something, it's all over the place, but when you let it settle, it's the same amount, it comes down, it's more condensed, it's more solid. That's what you ought to be. You're born again, it's like an explosion. You have to let it settle. Let your mind settle. Humble yourself. Be grounded. Realize now that you see clearly, when the dust have settled from this birth, you're not all that. You're just a baby. Yes, you've been born again. Yes, you received the Spirit from God. But you're not God. So you should be the most forgiving, the most gracious, the most graceful, and love. Don't think you're better than the people next door to you because they do not know the Lord. They might be better than you.
And what does it mean to know the Lord? I don't think that most know the Lord, my friend. I think they went to church, they said a prayer, they have a Bible, they sing a few songs, but to know the Lord? No, quite on the contrary. Because if you knew the Lord, you would not be that way. If you knew the Lord, you would be humble. If you knew the Lord, you would be kind, forgiving, you would be generous, you would be self-sacrificing yourself for the good of others. You would put them first if you knew the Lord. Jesus had many say, I love you, Lord. He goes, depart from me, you workers of iniquity. You were never one of my sheep. We teach giving your life to the Lord. What is it? What do you mean? You know what salvation means? The word salvation, to salvage, to save something. When you salvage something, when you redeem something, when you renovate something, that is something that was meant for the trash, something that was meant for destruction, something that's no good, something that's obsolete. All of a sudden, it's repurposed, it's redeemed, it's renovated, it's revived because it was dead. It's renewed because it's too old. And most do not come to the Lord with the acknowledgement that you are trash, refuse, gone, wicked, perverted, deserving of hell and death. You don't see yourself wicked. Most come to the Lord as a cause to get what they can get out of the Lord. It's you coming to the Lord for what the Lord can give you. I thought you were coming to the Lord because there was nothing to save you from what you've done to yourself and what was done to you. Someone that's being held hostage, someone floating in the sea because their boat capsized. They see the rescuer coming, and they know the joy in their heart because they're being saved. They're being rescued. There is someone who can save me, who can rescue me. And you're grateful because you know the reality of your life. You know the reality that had that salvation not come, you would be dead. Isn't that the way we should come to the Lord? In full knowledge of, I should be dead. I would be dead without you. Had you not saved me, who knows where I would have gone, what I would have become, what I would have done. But you saved me. Oh, Lord, you saved me. But instead, we treat him like a slot machine, Mene. But all you have to do is remember how bad you were, how lost you were, how hopeless you were, how without peace you were, how restless you were, how dark you were. And the Lord saved you. And then you'll start to really rejoice about your Redeemer. Hallelujah.